Everybody, it's Matt Fleming. I am the Sales and Marketing Manager at Advantage Business Systems for the Microsoft Dynamics product. I'm joined today by my erstwhile colleague, Mr. Simon Nicholson. Simon is a Services Manager, so Simon looks after the elements of the support team, the consultancy team and implementation teams. And it'll be Simon that will be doing much of the talking today and take you through GP 2015. Just a little bit of housekeeping before we start. You are currently all in mute mode. We've got 10 guys on the 10 ladies and gentlemen on the call today. So we'll leave you in mute mode so we don't end up with 10 questions all at one point in time. But you can ask questions. Is a big change, significant change in how Microsoft are delivering product. They are looking to deliver in 2015, the current one we've got, the current version we've got, a foundation for a number of features like service-based architecture, for integration, like the workflow products that are now embedded within 2015. They're going in as a foundation. But what Microsoft are going to do is they're going to start to deliver elements of the solution little and often. So instead of having to wait long periods of time for enhancements, we should get enhancements on a more regular basis, embellishing the product. And what we think will make the product far more agile and should improve the product more quickly. So Microsoft have invested a lot of time and effort into the product, and it's, we believe, a real big step forward for Microsoft in terms of some of the functionality that's in there. You should have a designated account manager or a sales guy. That will either be Ellie Clark, Paddy Kelly, or myself, Matt Fleming. Should you have any questions following the webinar or want to see any additional information, then please feel free to contact those guys. That's me. I will now hand over to Simon. Thanks, Simon.
Thanks, Matt. Right, I will dive straight into GP 2015. Okay, GP 2015 was released at the latter part of December last year. Excuse me. And as Matt said, it's the first step in bringing Microsoft products in line with technology moving forward. So Azure, service-based architecture, software as a service, and also enabling the use of GP over the web, and also empowering users who don't necessarily have access to a laptop or a machine. There, I will show you a little bit later on a tool called Business Analyzer, which is available on the iPad and on Android devices, which will allow you to publish reports to users within your organization without them having to access a PC. Okay, right, so I'll jump straight in. This is Dynamics GP 2015. Those of you who've seen and are familiar with GP, you should know your home page. There's been a few changes around the home page, and the fact that you can now move these around and tailor them to whatever you'd so like to see. You can change the order in which they appear, and also chop and change what's displayed very easily. You'll see that one thing in particular I do have on my home page is a link to my time management, time and expense, and requisitions. This relates to the workflow that Matt was talking about a moment ago, which is now built in with GP and has direct links with Outlook and your Active Directory. So just to show you how that works, within GP itself you can set up a number of workflows. Whether it be on Purchase Ledger, on General Ledger, or on Project Accounting. And what this will enable you to do is allow a degree of control over what gets posted onto the system, so you can allow for a manager. So for argument's sake, on my Purchase Ledger, I've created an approval rule so that all batches need to be approved before they can actually be posted. So just to demonstrate that, I'm going to enter a Purchase Ledger transaction. and save it into my batch. Oops. What I can now do is in my batch, once I've added all my entries, I can now submit that to whoever I've allocated within my approval hierarchy. I can add a comment so that those users can actually see that when they need to approve. That user will then receive an email, and I can then go in and approve that batch if I need to. You see who it's been sent to, and you see that that's been automatically rejected. Within these workflow tasks, what you can actually do is you can set specific criteria up so that if certain things fall within certain ranges, so if I look at my requisition, you see I have a number of approval rules. So I've added a rule on here, say this is the approval tree that's going to come into account and be assigned to that particular user, where my purchase line account number contains 100, which is one of my departments. And you'll see there are a multitude of options which you can have, and you can add as many of these in as you like. With regard to the requisitions, this is a new thing again which has been added into the system. So those of you who are using online requisitioning systems, that functionality has now been added into the core product. So I've gone into requisition entry, request, what am I buying? And I can set approval rules up by amounts as well. So I then submit that. What you'll then see is on my home page, after I've received my notification, you'll see I have what's been saved, what's ready to be invoiced, and I can very simply double click and show the record here. I can cancel, I can recall, and once again I can view the history. One thing that's also very good in GP 2015, should you need to have some kind of document flow through the system, there is something now called document attach. And what that enables you to do is attach any document that you so desire, wherever it may be on your network, which can then automatically flow through the system There we go. See, I've got two records here. I can then set that up so that if I email this requisition out to my particular supplier, they will get a copy of any of or all of these. So it's specifically good for terms and conditions, contract information, so on and so forth. You can also attach that to an individual record. So if I go into my creditor, you see I can do a document attached to the specific creditor themselves. Once again, if I just put a PDF on there. When I'm emailing a remittance or a purchase order, for argument's sake, what I can do is I can also send that document attached automatically with the email. With regards to the emails themselves are a lot more detailed. So I'm just going to email setup. You'll see you have a predefined list for your workflows, which you can tailor to whatever you so desire. With regard to reporting, there's a number of new features which have been added in. With regard to Smart List, one of the biggest issues that always has been with Smart List is when you used to maximise the window, the favourites pane used to take up half the page. Now you have the option to minimise. So the results that you have will fill the screen and nothing else. You can also make this wider or narrower as you so desire. Should you have a Smart List that you're currently using and you want to be able to expand it, to add a few more extra fields on, whereas before you would have to use Smart List Builder, what you can now do, there's a tool called Smart List Designer built in with the system where you can create your own. So for argument's sake, what I'd like to do is have a list of my suppliers with the BACS details. So we'll just make sure I've got some BACS details set up against one of my creditors. What I can do is I can now add that information into Smart List. So I've chosen vendors as my start point. I'm going to click New and call it BACS Details. You'll see that it's added in all the fields automatically from that Smart List I've chosen, and realistically I don't want to have all of these, so I can very simply remove the ones I don't want. So what I need to do is link it to the table that I need to join the information from. It's my electronic fund transfer, and say, okay, what's the join between the two? Well, in that table I have a vendor ID which links to that one by vendor ID. So it's very, very simple. Once I click OK, what you'll then see is I now have my Smart List automatically there to view with my additional information in there. Should you be using Office 365, you can directly publish this to an Excel report online. Staying on reporting, Management Reporter now is linked directly into GP. So if you have a list of reports that you've already previously run, those reports are now available to run from within the GP product itself, and all you do is simply double click it and it opens up my web report from there. And as with Management Reporter, you still have your full drill down, you have your different currency reporting, and I can very simply download that into Excel. The benefit to that is from an IT perspective, there's less emphasis on having to install a Management Reporter client, whereas this functionality is now built into the core product itself. In addition to the management reports, you have your Excel reports, which have been around for a short while now within Dynamics GP, but with every release they become a lot more powerful. So you have reports based on your companies, and I'm going to go into my Fabricam company, and then there's a list of the modules. So from a financial perspective, here are the predefined reports that are available out of the box. I'm going to open up my account transactions. You'll see that's virtually instantaneous, and I have got approximately 15,000 rows of data within here. Very, very quick to run. Now that's just Excel now feeding back to GP, and what I could potentially do is add more fields on. Now all this is doing is looking at the Smart Lists. So you see there I've got account transactions, and within Smart List I've got journal entry, series, transaction date, so on and so forth. So I'll just open up Smart List and go to Financial, my account transactions. So you've got journal entry, series, transaction date, so on and so forth. So what I'd like to do is add some more fields in. So if you go to Add, I want to add in my segment information. So you see I've got my segments. What else would I like? I'd like my period ID, So we've got period ID and my open year. So all I need to do is just add those fields in. So down the bottom, I'm going to put a comma and just add in open year, segment 1, segment 2, and period ID. And there we have it. I can do a very, very simple calculation to show my true amount, and because it's in a table format, it automatically updates. So when you've done this, you can save it wherever you like, and it stores the information in the Excel file itself. So I'm just going to close this and open it back up again. And so now what I can do is, because it's in a table format, I can very simply pop it into a pivot table. And again, once you've done this once, you don't have to do it again. So what I'd like is, I want my periods going in my columns. I'd like my segment 2 in my rows. And I'd like my amount in the value. So very, very quick pivot table, which has full drill down within there. So what I can now do, and again just using the core functionality within Excel, I can add some quite nice tools. So what I like to do is to be able to easily filter that information. I'm going to pop in slicer, and I'd like to slice on segment 1, segment 2, period and year. And what those slicers do is very, very simply narrow down the data that you see. Very quick and easy. What you can also do, if I want to remove period ID, what I'd like to do is use a timeline. And timelines are very good for saying, oh, I'd like June or July for those particular months. Let's go 2017. Very, very good for slicing and dicing information. And as with Excel, you can put nice pretty colours on if you so desire. And said this is just using standard Excel reports which are available out of the box with GP, with just a little bit of a tweak to get the additional columns in. While we're in Excel, one thing that a lot of people have asked me over the years, is there any way to get information directly from Excel into a window? The short answer is yes. So the ability now is, here's just an Excel spreadsheet with a load of account numbers, debit, credit, amounts, and what I can simply do is copy that and paste that into my journal window. Incorrectly. There we go. So you see, very, very quickly that's pasted in. I did a test on 10,000 rows and it took approximately a minute to paste that in. So it's very, very good. And those of you who use analytical accounting, you can also import analytical accounting information with that. Within the account code maintenance window, you can now inactivate codes which have had a balance. So if you've had a particular account code that's been used X number of years ago, what you can do is you inactivate that and it won't appear on any trial balances, so on and so forth. What you can also do is if you have got a range of codes which no longer are used or have been combined into other ones, with the use of the Professional Services Tools library, what you can now do is you can modify particular account codes. Or not. I'll come back to it. It's all part of it. For some reason mine is not working. Year-end closing. There is now the ability to undo year-end. So if you accidentally do process year-end and you didn't mean to, there is now a button to reverse out that year-end process itself. Very, very handy, because some people do accidentally click close year twice. From a processing perspective on cash receipts, you can now apply multi-currency cash receipts at time of entry. Whereas before, what you would have to have done was post the transaction and then apply it later. All you'd now need to do is pop it on and click the apply button there and there. Saves a fair amount of time. From a user time perspective, one thing that's very, very handy is lists. And if I look at my sales ledger, you'll see on the left-hand side, once I open up my sales ledger page, I have a list of options, and they include Excel reports, standard GP reports, and then also these, which are lists. So if I click on my debtors, what this is going to do is it will give me a complete list of all my debtors. So what I can do from here is I can say, right, what I'd like to have is their balances. And you see it's now saved it on there, and I can add that to my shortcuts. I can change the columns to show stuff that's useful for myself. So I'd like my current balance, which I can then sort on. I can add a filter on to say, okay, well, I don't want to show anything where the current balance is 0. Once it's done, I can save it. And this is where it gets quite good. So what I can do from here is I can go in, I can print my statements, and I can email directly from here as well. I can go in, I can print off a non-sequential trial balance. I can simply dump that information into Excel. I can have a look at the transactions. I can have a look at the debtor. I can put them on hold. I can enter credit control information. It's kind of a one-stop shop to prevent you having to go into lots and lots of different places to find information. Another good thing from here is once you've opened up the transactions for that one particular debtor, and this is available on General Ledger, Purchase Ledger, Inventory, what I can do from here is I can also directly email a copy of that invoice. One of the benefits of 2015 is you can actually change the email address at point of sending. Those of you who are on a current version where you can email documents out, you would, once they've been in history, you could only send them to that particular email address. Now you can actually send it to any or other email address available. And that is the second to last thing, and one of the key things which is now available is the ability to be able to report on multi-currency information using Management Reporter where you have not had any transactions going through in that particular currency. Those of you who are using FRX, you would have had to maintain a currency exchange rate table to enable multi-currency reporting. Now with Management Reporter, you can actually set up a number of exchange rates by currency, whether that be an average rate for your balance sheet, a current rate for your balance sheet, an average rate for your P&L, a different rate for budgeting, and these exchange rates link directly through to Management Reporter for financial reporting. And that is a very quick overview of some of the features that are available within Dynamics GP 2015.